Last week, I put out a video where I talked about the negative extremes of the communicative method as it's taught in the CELTA course. We discussed whether we should indeed minimize TTT and get rid of the running commentary. This week, we're going to explore great techniques taught in CELTA that most novice teachers are unaware of. 1. When we are presenting new language, the sequence of stages must be easy to follow. We could repeat a present perfect sentence ad infinitum, but until we present it as something meaningful and practically useful for your students, it will not make much sense. And so we start with M. M stands for meaning. Every time we want to teach something, we want to make sure our learners have a clear idea of what this new bit of language means. We need to give our learners a good reason for using that words, otherwise why would they even bother? Be it a word, a phrase or a grammatical construction, understanding what it means is critical. So whatever it is we're presenting, let's make sure the learners understand what that blob of sounds and letters points to. The best way to establish a lived understanding of a meaning of a word is to find or create a felt distinction of it in your experience. I describe this method in detail in my videos titled English is a Feeling and Natives versus Non-Native English Speakers Mind, What's the Difference? After meaning comes F, form. To use a word correctly, we need to understand how it behaves in conjunction with other words. If this new word is a noun, does it have a plural form? If this language in question is present perfect, how do we turn it into a question? And last, there comes P, pronunciation. Now that your learners know what it is that they're practicing, they can finally drill it. 2. Language grading. It means that you learn to speak your students' language. There is an assessment criteria in your CELTA course that says language grading. Over my training, we'll learn to anticipate which words our students would be likely to know and which words might confuse them. That helped create effective activities and avoid wasting time explaining language that would take students off on a tangent. I reckon I'm naturally quite attuned to other minds, therefore it's no rocket science for me to feel what another human is experiencing, so I didn't struggle with the grading bit much. But there were trainees in my group who found it hard to penetrate other people's intrinsic grammars and vocabularies. And I could see them master that muscle over their CELTA training. 3. Instead of putting students on a spot by asking, "Do you understand?" communicative method instructors develop this clever technique. After we teach new language to our students via the MFP method, we check their grasping of it by asking them questions. In other words, we check whether the learners are on the same page with us. ICQs are instruction checking questions and CCQs are concept checking questions. Well, here is a quick example for you. Imagine I'm teaching the word mystical. In the meaning stage of my MFP presentation, I might ask students, does mystical refer to something that we can easily understand? Is there an element of secrecy to what we call mystical? Those are yes or no questions, but in addition to yes or no questions, such as the ones above, we may also ask open-ended questions, such as what color do you associate the word mystical with? What phenomena in the world would you consider mystical? By posing these questions, you can learn about your students' understanding way more than by simply asking them, is this clear? Or does that make sense? Nobody wants to look stupid. 4. Instead of interrupting your students incessantly, you learn to write their mistakes down and encourage self-correction at the end of an activity or a lesson altogether. You also learn the difference between an error and a mistake and treat the two types of inaccuracy in a different fashion. To put it briefly, a mistake is an inaccuracy that a student can correct because she possesses all necessary knowledge to understand that what she has said is wrong. On the other hand, a student can't correct their errors simply because their language resource is insufficient enough yet to do so. In CELTA, we're taught to only give the feedback which is beneficial to our students at a given time, and not correct everything to make the passage perfect. This ability to differentiate comes with the territory once we learn to grade our language. We simply know what mistakes we should correct on this stage and what errors we would rather not even mention, since that will only generate confusion. 5. CELTA teaches us to draw a distinction between fluency and accuracy when assessing our students' communicative achievement. We learn to give feedback on fluency, namely students' ability to express themselves successfully at a natural pace, presenting their ideas coherently and with a decent command of appropriate language, and accuracy, how well they can do it grammatically and vocabulary-wise. Are they choosing the right tenses? Any wrong word forms, such as saying advices instead of advice? Using a wrong sound in the word fork and sounding like that notorious Italian visiting Malta. That is the realm of accuracy. You may hear from English gurus that fluency is more important than accuracy, that if you know a word for diarrhea, you will have better chances to survive than if you could produce future perfect continuous, but you know what I will say. It's all highly contextual. If you want to go beyond a certain mark on your English journey, accurate English is a must. Eloquent speakers may get away with an occasional slip of the tongue, but if there is a fossilized mistake that remains unfixed since a speaker was intermediate-ish, don't think that will sound trustworthy. We all know those websites where English is generally good, but then there is like a little typo and suddenly your trust drops. Finally, one huge CELTA takeaway is that you learn to give learners autonomy. Schools are meant to teach us how to learn so that we can become self-sufficient learners. If we're consistently spoon-fed by the teacher, we'll learn to look up to the teacher all the time and barely learn independence. In my CELTA Myths video, I hoped to dispel the myth of peer teaching and show there's nothing wrong with healthy and inspiring hierarchy, where we come to a classroom to learn from a teacher, not our peers. To balance out that point, let me mention that I strongly believe that inspiring learners to find their own voice and gain confidence in expressing their own ideas is key to them becoming effective speakers. In CELTA, you learn to be present, but not intrude. You learn to run group activities, but stay respectful to individual work. You learn a lot about classroom dynamics, how to set up effective classrooms and keep everybody engaged. The best thing CELTA offers, in my opinion, is face-to-face, first-hand teaching experience, when you're meant to teach hands-on, and only then can you receive your certificate. No lenient listening or idle note-taking. CELTA is hard work, but if you go through it, your teaching style will be enriched forever. I wish you all the best in your endeavours.